you doing today, Professor Todd? Sorry, that was so bad. I almost called you by your first name.
You can call me by my first name, that's fine. There's plenty of students. It's always funny when students call me by my first name because they do kind of, like it's crazy. Like, no, that's fine. That's who I am. That's what I've been called all the time. I'm doing great today. Hope, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So, for our first question, of all the pieces of literature that you teach, which is your favorite?
Favorite to read or favorite to teach?
That's a hard one. I'm gonna go with teach.
Favorite to teach? I really like teaching Frankenstein a lot. And you were in a class where I taught Frankenstein. First
yes,
of all,
I remember that. That was so great.
It's a phenomenal book. Even the preface. You know, a book is really good when the preface is really interesting. Starts with Mary Shelley saying, "I saw something that I'll never forget. It was a noodle flopping around in a box like it was alive." Terrified me. A beautiful detail. There's something in there about media studies. And I think also just the fact that students, like they know what Frankenstein looks like. They've seen the monster before, Frankenstein's monster. To actually read the novel and see how it departs from their kind of perception of the Halloween Frankenstein image. So Frankenstein, I'd say, is favorite to teach.
Yeah, it was fun to learn too. That was awesome. All right, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Any superpower. I think that it's not really a superpower because people actually have this, but having I don't know how to pronounce it, but like eidetic memory, where you can see something. It's photographic memory. Sometimes people say.
Like spatial.
Yes, it would be helpful for me as a professor to be able to remember every page in a book, and I think that would be a kind of nice superpower. There was a professor I knew who had that,
really?
And they would give entire lectures where they were quoting word by word from a book by memory. And whenever they started quoting, they kind of look up in the air, and you could see they were seeing the page. Anyway, I'm just super jealous of that. So
that's
that
so
would be
cool.
That would be my superpower.
That's cool, especially because it's a real life thing you've seen.
Yeah.
Did you pick up any new hobbies or skills during the pandemic?
Oh, I tried to learn French. That was embarrassing. But other than that, I'm not sure anything. I guess I did transform myself into the world's worst Twitch streamer, like teaching, So I know how to say things let's throw some emotes in the chat for Jonathan Swift, let's hear it for Gulliver.
What's your favorite thing about teaching?
Favorite thing about teaching? The best moments in teaching are when, I'm gonna throw two. Okay, so there's one, which is where students who were reluctant with a subject, sometimes with a difficult subject, start finding their voice. And you can, as a teacher, and I think anybody who's been in a classroom, you know what I'm talking about. The student who is so smart and so intelligent, there's some kind of barrier there, whatever it might be, public speaking, whatever, and they just start to raise their hand a little bit more, and then they start speaking, and they realize what you already knew, which was that they have amazing things to say, and you can see the other students seeing it at the same time. That's really special. And then the other thing, which I think students don't feel as much, the stuff that I teach, the books and movies that I teach, I think about them a lot. It's something I can't control. I like reading them. I like thinking about them. And sometimes a student will say something that I've just never thought of before. A new reading, a new angle, a new observation. It's really remarkable, and it's really pleasurable for me. So those are two moments that are the best with teaching.
But if you could instantly know any language, which would you choose?
It wouldn't be French.
Really?
I'm somewhat proficient with Spanish. I could if you drop me in a Spanish-speaking country, I could get a hotel room or get a train ticket somewhere, etc. So I thought I was trying to be realistic with French. But given my research interest right now, I think I might want to know a language like Arabic or Japanese, just because of some of the things that happen in film in those countries. I would love to be able to just instantly learn that.
Who is your role model, if you had to pick a person?
If I had to pick a person, that's a really good question. There are a couple of people that immediately spring to mind. Should this be like a famous person or someone I know?
Can be either one.
All right. Role model for me, I'm this is kind of a weird one and somewhat minor, but someone who was really helpful to me in my own career and my own thinking, and actually like I don't know how to put this. Maybe you'll recognize this a little bit when you're trying to make difficult decisions about your future. Sometimes it's hard to get someone to just give you advice, because they don't want to be the one to give you the advice that like ruins your life. But someone who really did was Gwen Batten, and I think she's just incredibly intelligent and really helpful to me at a difficult time. So I'd say that she's a professor at University of Washington.
What fashion trend, old or brand new, do you wish would come back or start to catch on?
Oh no. I'm now excited for the time when the like early 2000s, late 90s nostalgia kicks in. So like something I'm looking forward to is when I see people wearing like aviator goggles for sunglasses. And if you need a good example of that, you can just look at Seth Green on the cover of Can't Hardly Wait. That was a fun one. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, like the like flight suits in the Mo Money Mo Problems video as well. I think those like day glow flight suits, those would be fantastic. So those are my two options for things I'd like to see come back.
Okay, you're not allowed to take bribes, but if you were, what could students bribe you with other than money?
Money. It's important that you add other than money, because money is obviously the best, I think, tried and true bribe material. But me personally, just candy. Just the rat trashiest candy, like the stuff that is in like your grandma's candy, like the crummiest movie candy. Like if you think, I don't know if this even exists anymore, but it used to be the case. You go to a movie theater and they'd have like $2, $1.50, $1, and the $1 was like the hot tamales and stuff that nobody wanted. Up at the top, your Junior Mints, your luxury candies. But that bottom shelf candy, lemon heads, that kind of stuff, love it. A package of that garbage would probably earn you a whole letter grade.
Good to know. What is your favorite restaurant in the area?
Ooh, there is a restaurant that I can afford to go to like every other year called Las Puertas, which is really good. And the chef there has also an amazing Instagram account that I really like. That is Yucatecan Mexican food. And it's delicious. Regular place, like a place I like to eat, there's a place by my house called Home Taste Chinese food, which is really excellent. They have some complex soups that I would recommend to anybody out there.
Cool, I'll have to check them out.
Please do.
So, what made you want to start teaching women in literature?
Oh, that's a good question. Is that very often the people who are repressed, who are not able to access easily the means of production within a particular media, are the ones that do some of the crazier stuff when they get there. And that's what I really wanted to teach in Women in Literature, is to show students, like, women in literature are innovators in literature. They invent genres, science fiction, they rearrange genres, horror. Their novels don't follow the rules. So I think there's a lot, essentially to inform people about media, access to media, and about why it's so important that everyone have access, because those ideas are some of our favorite ideas once they reach the level of actually being able to produce.
Right. That's so cool. If you could live in any fictional movie, which would you choose?
I could live in any fictional movie. I think that in terms of living a decent life and being able to be happy, my son is really into these right now, the Studio Ghibli films, like what a beautiful, like, lush, detailed, tactile world is created with those hand-drawn animated films. So something like My Neighbor Totoro, like what a beautiful house and kind of rural pastoral neighborhood. That'd be my choice, I think.
Oh, I love My Neighbor Totoro and Studio Ghibli movies. Those are awesome. If you could go on an all-expense paid trip, where would you go?
That's a hard one, especially because I feel like everyone probably feels like a prisoner right now. I'm like, oh, travel. It's been so long.
Okay, let me add something to the question then.
Uh-oh.
With no fear of getting sick.
Yeah, no fear of getting sick. It's so hard because you're always pulled in two directions, right? Do I go to a place I've been before that was really phenomenal, or go someplace I'd never been? And I think the real answer is I'd want to go someplace I'd never been. Probably Chile or Argentina, or if I could prolong it, just a trip to the southernmost area of South America.
If you could make up a word or phrase and have it catch on, what would it be?
All right, so I've been trying to get this to catch on, which is, I call it boneyard theory, which is like, the world is a boneyard. it's this sink. It's this not even a great graveyard. Things are poking up and popping up all the time, and there's anxiety, you're in there. And really resituate thinking about present conditions. Because I think most people agree the world as it exists right now could use some fairly significant change. I've been trying to get boneyard theory to catch on.
If you could teach any class you haven't taught before, what would you try?
It's an excellent question. And I say, to begin with, I try my best to offer classes that I think students will like. And so I frequently am talking to my students about, like, would you take this class? Would you take that class? I'm teaching a horror class. I think I already mentioned that in this interview. And that's definitely from, like, student feedback. Like, students who are interested in film, they wanted that particular genre. There's a lot of interest in it. Responding to student feedback. Speaking of women in literature, I taught women in film, women directors. Direct response to what people wanted. Taught a class on Hitchcock, whose name I'm looking at on my bookcase right over there. Again, responding to student demand. So I'm going to say the one class I want to teach that I probably won't teach because I don't think anybody would take it is experimental and art film. So that might be my class.
You never know. There might be more interested than you think.
Maybe we'll find out. Well, I'll look at the camera for this one. Let me break the fourth wall. You want to take that class? Let me know. I'd be happy to teach it.
Like the popular saying, do you believe the book was better whenever a book is made into a film?
Oh, what a great transition. You didn't even know how I was going to answer that last one. Look at that. Beautiful transition. This is like sacrilege. There are movies that are better than the book. It definitely happens. And there are books that are better than the movie.
Okay, what was the most inspiring moment or experience in your life?
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's a big one.
Am I allowed to tell am I allowed to tell a story straight from the boneyard? Can I tell a disturbing story?
I think so, for sure.
Somebody give me a signal if it's too much, or if it's inappropriate for Buffalo State TV. I'm really selling it here. So
I mean, we can edit it out if it's
sure.
really that bad. I can
much.
just give you like a timeout or something.
Yeah. Give me that sign. 3 winks tagged like I'm a baseball player or something. So I was in New York City for graduate school. And I got onto the subway, and as is often the case, just hectic, not really paying attention. But something is kind of like hitting me on the unconscious level. There's some kind of disturbance happening on the subway. Subway doors close, and it starts to move. There's a big commotion all of a sudden. And what happened is there is a person on the subway who seems to be, I would say, performatively vomiting.
Oh.
And the vomit is bright yellow. And the vomit is, if I were to give you the smell, you know how vitamins smell? Mm-hmm. Imagine someone's boiling a pot of vitamins.
Ooh.
It's like not even like a normal like smell of any kind, not even like a bodily smell. And so this person is vomiting over in the corner, and this is what happens when someone is performatively vomiting, is that other people start to vomit.
Ew.
It's catching on. The entire train car is becoming like a vomit car. As like people are like retching and vomiting because you're now in the vomit train car, right? And so, again, I'm on the subway. I cannot get off the car until we come to the next stop. It's packed. It's New York City. Right. It's hot, and the vomit is it's spreading. It's like this is like a metaphor maybe for coronavirus. It's going both ways, and so me and all these other people are like struggling to get away from the contagious vomiting that's spreading at the other end. So finally get to the train station, the next station, and rush off of the train, just like a mass exodus. And somebody had to have reported this because there were actually medical people waiting, there were EMTs waiting to get on the train. Okay. So people who were ill, you can rest assured they were taken care of. So again, apologize if that's insensitive or has caused anyone to catch the contagious vomiting, but that is the moment that sprang to my mind for whatever twisted reason.
That's really interesting. If you were a student, what class at Buffalo State would you want to take the most?
I would be most excited to take any class where I'm learning what you all are learning, like techniques for media production, the nitty-gritty of film and sound editing, using the equipment, getting that under my belt. I think there are a lot of opportunities right now for people to make art in digital media, and I think that I would be the most excited to learn those kind of skills.
Well, that's pretty cool for us to hear from BSC TV. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that you're sitting here interviewing someone who's just wildly jealous of you. Just spitefully, wildly jealous.
You can check out our club anytime. We meet on every Thursday.
Maybe I will, now that you've invited me. But now that you've invited me, it's just going to be vomit stories every time.
No.
It's going to be awful for you.
If a movie were made about your life, who would you want to direct it?
Oh, fictional movie or a documentary?
Either one.
Okay. If a movie was going to be made about my life and it was a documentary, I would want it to be Werner Herzog, because I identify as like a suicidal penguin running off into the mountains. Like that's how I'd like to be captured in film. Choice for like movie, I think I'm gonna plug one of my favorite directors in the world right now for a fictional film, Lucrecia Martel. Argentinian director. She is amazing. I'm more excited to watch movies she's making than anybody else. And even if she made me look awful, I'd know that it would be a good movie. and so I would want to see that.
Who should play you in the film, especially if it was, a fictional movie?
Oh, who should play me in the film? My immediate response is well, it's funny, people tell you that you look like someone. It's always someone who's like wildly more attractive than you actually are, and so these are gonna sound ridiculous.
It's a compliment though when people say that.
That's true. It's nice. But I had a friend, a very very close friend, who used to make fun of me all the time for looking like Mark Ruffalo. And he's a great actor. He plays the Hulk. Does a good job. So I think Mark Ruffalo. And then my sister told me, I just don't think this is true at all. She watched, I think, Inside Llewyn Davis, which is a Coen Brothers film, and she said that there's something about Oscar Isaac's performance that reminded her of me. So one of those two. Although if I was going to be played by Oscar Isaacs, I'd want crazy ex machina Oscar Isaacs, to be the performance.
Yeah, you gotta pick your favorite version of that.
Yeah, that's right.
When you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh, I have some. My parents wrote this down and they kept it for me. I think to humiliate me. My very earliest ambition was to be a professional hockey player, and I have to explain why this is interesting. I to this day don't know how hockey works. I grew up on the West Coast. There was no hockey. I don't know how I even learned the word hockey, but according to my parents, I wanted to be a professional. It's like the one sport I didn't play when I was young. So that was first. And then I very quickly transitioned to cook at McDonald's, which was, for a long time, my ambition was to make that food, because that was my favorite food in the world. So that's kind of like, high ceiling, low basement kind of situation there,
If a genie were to grant you one wish, but put an evil twist on it, how would you try to outsmart them?
Oh, gosh. Trying to outsmart a genie. Given only one wish. Okay, this is really hard. Because I think, really, what I would like to see is kind of what I talked about, like for society to be rearranged in such a way that accessing media production was easier, or that there was really a more actual egalitarian as opposed to messed up YouTube algorithm to people being able to produce and actually express themselves. So what you would end up with in that monkey paws situation would be what would it be? It would just be everyone now is an influencer, maybe, so there's no more, nobody does anything else except brand, and they've all got, I see these sometimes, those harnesses with a smartphone attached to them. That's just how everybody is now.
Maybe not everybody is influenced as much because everybody's an influencer.
Everybody's an influencer. That would be the dystopia, but the utopia would be everyone is well, God, no, I hate that word too, creator. It's been really messed up, hasn't it? Content creator. Ugh, that's awful. Yeah.
All right. Now on to a happier question. What brings you joy in life?
It's a great question. I'm gonna start again with something related to an earlier question. Student success. When students are successful and they write me an email, that is phenomenal. That's something that brings me joy in life. A good movie, especially like watching a good movie with friends, that brings me joy in life. And then the real number one answer is just basketball in all of its forms. Watching basketball, playing basketball, that brings me joy. It's a beautiful game. It's a perfect game. True American game, by the way.
I did notice there were some basketball cards up on your shelf of literature.
Oh yeah. My books. The books are back there. They're fine. Books are great. But in the front, we got some real heroes. Oscar Roberts in there, and a lot. People suggest that maybe it's non-academic, but actually basketball is so important for like labor relations, race relations. There's a really good book written recently about Bob Cousy and Bill Russell, which I recommend anybody who's interested in it take a look at. And then up there, my real role model is Rasheed Wallace. I've got up there, I have a signed portrait of him on my desk at home. Rasheed was he's playing basketball in my hometown when I was growing up, and he set the record, I think some people know, for most technical fouls. And although I myself am not insouciant in that way, I feel the spirit of Sheed sometimes when I'm feeling particularly anti-authoritarian, and so he does inspire me. But yeah, basketball, joyful game.
That's really cool. What was your favorite book as a kid?
Oh, okay. I do have an actual answer to this. This is a weird story. Fast forward, because it's going to be kind of boring. This book was called Far Walker, I believe. And it was about like a lemming who like has to go on this spirit quest to avoid walking off a cliff, which lemmings don't even do, right? I think we all know that now. They don't actually like go over a cliff. This was some evil Disney idea that they like shoved lemmings off a cliff to try to make people believe this happened. My third grade teacher connected with the author, who lived in Alaska. I grew up in Oregon, and arranged for this guy to come to my third grade classroom. It's just like a bolt of lightning, like really? Strikes and hits you essentially, that my favorite book, the author, is going to come to my classroom and talk about it. I was so excited. I brought my copy of this weird lemming book to talk to the author to get it signed. And I go up to him and I practiced it. I'm so nervous. I say, this is my favorite book. You're my favorite writer. And he says to me, he said, "Oh, you must know someone who's addicted to drugs." I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, my nephew is addicted to drugs, and that's why I wrote the novel. It's clearly a metaphor for drug addiction." Anyway, Here you go, sign stuff. He passes it back to me. And,
he just leaves you with that?
Yeah, there was a line of kids coming up to meet or talk to him, because third grade, you don't really know what to do with a writer who came to your classroom. Anyway, that was my favorite book, and that's my strange, boring story about weirdly getting to meet the author.
If you won the lottery, what's the first thing you would buy?
What is the first thing I would buy? I feel like this is a lame answer, but the first thing I would buy is probably I probably want to give money to my friends and relatives to make sure that everybody was comfortable. Depending, how much are we talking about here? I'm assuming I've just won all the money in the world, so I would want to give some of it away. I think that's what I'd be most excited to do. But in terms of completely useless stuff, like luxury stuff, again, previous answer, basketball court. Just, for me and people to play on, basketball court.
Is there anything exciting for you in the future at Buffalo State?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would go ahead and say the class I'm teaching in fall 2022 that I'm really excited about is weird books, weird movies. I really like, and I would say Buffalo State students in general, of all the places I've taught, so willing to engage with different stuff, different kinds of material, stuff that's not necessarily familiar. I'm excited to see people respond to some of those stranger movies. But something else is exciting. I have the student group. It's called the BSC Cinephiles, and I publish student writing on film, and have film festivals with a specific theme that students organize and give the introductions for. That had to stop because of COVID, and it's starting back up right now. And we're going to do some stuff that I think would be really exciting. One thing that I would like to see happen, a couple things I think people here could be capable of doing, having a media studies conference, undergrad conference at Buff State. We're bringing people from around the area to give papers and share their research and what they're interested in. I would love to do that. And then something else that I think could potentially be really exciting, and that I think students would be totally up to doing is having an essay prize, like a small probably scholarship, but about writing about film.
What advice would you give your younger self?
What advice would I give to my younger self? That is a really hard question. I think that I would want to, be more organized is really it, unfortunately. I was trying to find a way around that, because I think that maybe students would recognize what I'm talking about when I say, like, the beginning of every term is when you, like, get the planner out and you're like, gonna write it all down, I got my calendar, maybe on my phone, gonna keep it all together, gonna organize all my notes. But something that I run into all the time in my job is having to do the same thing twice, 3 times, 4 times. And often I think, if only I had been responsible enough to keep track of where I put this work the first time. So that is boring old man advice, but there you go.
Still good advice. If you could only eat one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be? That same rat trash candy. I saw the end of this question coming, and the truth of the matter is, I picked tacos or pizza, I'm gonna just be thinking about hot tamales all the time. Just disgusting, gelatinous, treacly candy. That would be what I'd miss. Okay, last question.
Here we go.
Who would you like to see interviewed at Buffalo State?
Okay, I've done this many times, but I'm going to give you 2 answers. And they're 2 people who were in my cohort. We went through orientation and training together. And one of them is Steve Peraza in the history department. He is, whenever I see him, and I feel like we immediately say, like, oh, we need to talk sometime, but everybody's so busy, it's very hard. Every time I talk to him, it's interesting. He's so thoughtful about teaching, and his research is really fascinating stuff. Never even had a chance to tell him that. That's how hard it is to have a long conversation, but the stuff he's working on and the stuff he's published is really fascinating. And then the other person who is also in my cohort is Teresa Smith. She's in the art conservation department. And I have had an opportunity to take a peek at her research because I was a part of a committee that looked at a proposal she put together. That stuff's really interesting. Art conservation at Buff State, some people know, is one of the more famous, prestigious programs that we have here, and the kind of work that they do there. I was lucky to know her to be able to get a little peek at it, and I think that students would really like. Both Professor Peraza and Professor Smith have a lot of fun, interesting things to say.
I'll have to look into them. Well, thank you so much for...
I hope you do. You are so welcome. Thanks for coming by, everybody, my little corner of campus to talk to me.
Yeah, this interview was great.
It's always nice to